All right, let's give away some T-shirts here.
Yeah.
T-shirt giveaway.
Put them in and
How many,
fly
Doug?
them off.
14 reviews this week.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
That's exactly right. And we're giving away 4 shirts. And the shirts go to Foxy Lifts,
Yeah.
De Mama,
Who's mama?
Yo, mama.
UC Teeth, and Married with Muscle.
Married with Muscle.
All of you are winners.
These guys are clever.
Winner, chicken dinner. How do they
Yeah.
get their T-shirt, Doug?
Send the name, the one I just read, to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Include your shirt size and your shipping address, and we'll get that right out to you.
Lucky fuckers.
Yep.
If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump. With your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this upcoming episode of Mind Pump, we talk about my wonderful experience at the post office. We talk about our time at PaleoFX. It was awesome, and there were some unexpected things that we cover in this episode.
But hang in there, because then we get to all the good stuff and all the meat of the episode.
And we answered some amazing questions. First question was pyramiding your workouts versus warm-ups. Then we talked about our favorite entrepreneurial minds. We talked about how to maximize your business as a personal trainer. And then we talk about Pilates versus resistance training. Within those questions, we answered quite a bit. And a lot of the answers that came up were about priming, how to properly prime your body. As some of you may know, we offer a program called MAPS Prime that includes a self-assessment tool called a compass. You take the compass, you figure out your recruitment patterns, you figure out how to prime your body specifically to the way it moves so that you can do your 10-minute priming session before your workouts to maximize your workout. Now, you can find out more about MAPS Prime at mindpumpmedia.com. I want to just publicly thank you 3 for your patience with me this morning.
Oh, good. Yeah.
That was...
how miserable was that?
Dude, let me tell you. The next person that tells me that they want federally controlled government anything, I'm going to punch them in the throat.
You said that, you texted us that while you were waiting in line to get your passport for you and your kids. Is that what everyone was talking about? Is that why?
So here's how it works, right? In order to do this process with kids, both parents have to be there, and you have to do it at the post office. Now, the post office opens for the passports at 10 a.m., and they close, I think, at 3, the post office. Let's just start there. So it opens at 10, right? My ex gets there to hold a place in line at 6 a.m. Remember, it opens at 10.
Yeah.
She gets there at 6 a.m.
She's camping out.
There's 4 people ahead of her. The reason why this happens is because the process is so fucking grueling slow. Honest to God, it was like they were frozen in time. If they went any slower, they would have gone backwards. So she's 4th in line. So I get there with the kids because I'm not going to bring the kids there at 6 a.m., right? So I have the kids. I bring the kids there at 9:30. So I'm like, right when they opened, we're going to get in, we're going to get out. But I should have known better. 10 a.m., 10:05, they open the doors. So they're 5 minutes late, which is good considering, who's running it. We go in there, and it takes them, not exaggerating, the first 2 people that were in line, I'm like, cool, they're going to breeze through. Like, how long could this possibly take? 1 hour. 1 hour.
For the first person.
For the first 2 people.
Holy.
There's 2 more people ahead of us.
Why?
Because the process is so redundant and arduous and slow. Like, I'm watching them do this, and you could have used carrier pigeons and smoke signals and carved stone, and you would have gotten there faster. I wrote 4 more MAPS programs while I was in line. That's how long.
Wow. Awesome. Can't wait for those.
It's so fucking ridiculous and slow that I can't understand why anybody would want our government to run anything. Because if Starbucks ran this, if I went in to get my passports from Starbucks, if there were 4 people in front of me, you ever been in Starbucks with 4 people in front of you? How long does it take to get your fucking coffee?
Yeah.
It takes 2 minutes, right? It would have been in and out. No. It takes forever. And the reason why it takes forever, and I want to rant for a second, and I don't care if I piss people off. I'm going to rant a little bit here. The reason why it sucks so bad, and by the way, it's archaic in there. It's completely archaic. I went in there 5 years ago. The place looks exactly the same. I think they're using the same computers.
Yeah.
The reason why it sucks so bad is because they don't go out of business. like they could suck as much as they want. The workers could be as slow as they want.
Yeah, they're not firing anybody.
They don't have to change the systems. They don't have to change the process. They don't have to update anything. It just is what it is, and it always gets funding no matter what. So they could fucking fuck off all day long and have this shitty system, and we're stuck with it. And no one else can do it, by the way. What we had to do, there is no private company that will do it, at least not in California, but I don't think anywhere. So we're stuck. So we're stuck waiting in line. It's like I'm in the Soviet Union waiting for bread. Like I have to sit there forever and wait for this shit. And this is our third attempt because the other time we waited, we got there when it opened, which was a mistake because we were, I'm not joking, at 10 a.m., if you show up when they're like 5 minutes before they open, the line is around the block and you're not going to get in. You'll be waiting forever and whatever the time, the closing time shows up and they'll tell you, come back tomorrow. Like you ain't getting in. So it's just, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I just wish I could, when I fill my taxes out, I could say on it, you get taxes, fuck you, you don't get shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay my taxes for this. But this doesn't happen that way.
So when you did get it done, I have my passport. I got to get mine renewed, by the way, which I think I can do in the mail. What? I can't remember. I went in and I was all by myself, and it was
with the two kids. You have to have both kids there and both parents present. And I understand. I know. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because God forbid, like one of the parents gets passports and then kidnaps the kid or whatever.
Right, of course.
I get that. I get all that. It's just the entire process is so incredible. There was because there was a line. Remember, there's a line around the block.
It's like
right?
I remember
there's two people doing the whole thing. There's two people working the desk, and each time they have a customer, it's this most redundant, ridiculous filling out of paperwork and
they
staple this to that.
For the picture, right? The little picture,
dude.
It's why do I want that?
You have to pay an $80 fee here, $150 fee there. On top of that, there's tax money going into it. On top of that, it's so painful.
It's a cluster of fuck.
It's so bad. It's so fucking bad.
It's weird because I feel like there's not a lot that they really need you there for. A photo, and I don't remember the questionnaire being that long. I think it took me a few minutes at most to fill it out, maybe 10 to 20 questions.
We walk up and they're like, okay, give me your photo IDs. I'm going to make 2 photocopies here. Let me see the passports. Make 2 photocopies here. Sign this, sign that, fill this out. Here's another thing. We need 3 separate checks for each fucking area. Oh, if you don't pay with check, it's another, $2 fee. It's like back and forth, here, that, and the other. We went in with everything photocopied and filled out because my plan was to get in and out, right? Because I'm trying to come to work.
Right.
And it still took us, when we got up there, 20 minutes from everything filled out to being able to leave.
Jeez.
It was...
And I can't
wait till they control my healthcare. It's going to be awesome. I can't fucking wait, dude.
Let's all wait in line.
It's just insane.
On a positive note, we are coming off what a fun weekend out in Austin, Texas.
Oh, Paleo FX was beautiful.
Yeah.
What a good, it's
awesome.
We almost didn't go, right? We really didn't have any intention 6 months ago to go to Paleo FX. I don't remember what made us even really look into going. I remember Ben brought it up and somebody else brought it up, and then when we realized that some of the other guys were going to be there, I thought, okay, this could be decent.
Well, Austin is a great city. It seems to be like a central hub for fitness. You know what I mean? Because you've got some really good podcasts.
It's a very active city.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of good podcasts that are based out of there. You have On It that's over there, and then other people were meeting up over there. I've been to a lot of fitness / bodybuilding conventions, and this was it was very different. It's funny because they both have their own.
Yeah, they have their own culture, though. I mean, it was different, but it was very similar. On the other end of the spectrum. So, that was kind of fun and interesting to see how they ran with that. Because there's one side of it, you get a lot of the artificial and like all this like supplement heavy type of booths, and then on this end it was like beef, bone broth, and fat, and that's like it.
I felt a lot of parallels.
Totally.
I saw a lot of parallels to me. At first, I think we were really like excited because it was so different. than bodybuilding, or we felt like it was so different because you didn't see any of those guys. Like there was no stringers walking around. There wasn't there wasn't any of that, or like
no tanning bed tans,
no bright colored cool shoes,
no mirror glasses, but there were blue blockers.
Oh, there was.
Oh my God!
There were a lot of blue blockers.
Everybody was wearing blue blockers.
Well, and that's how I feel like, right? So instead of we traded out the douchebag,
the atomic shoes for blue blockers.
Yeah, the douchebag mirrored sunglasses inside for blue blocker sunglasses inside.
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny to me, and I thought that it was a little over. I mean, we saw a couple. I think I saw 2 or 3 families where the son, the daughter, the mom, and the husband all were wearing blue blockers.
You know what's funny about that is when we were walking around with Ben Greenfield, and he was cracking up, and he's like, "They're using blue blockers wrong." He's like, "You want light during the day. There's not a reason to wear. You shouldn't be wearing blue blockers.
Doing it wrong
all the time." But there was a lot of buffed hippies. So you saw it was like a lot of I saw a lot of dreadlocks, but then they looked fit. Mm-hmm. There were a remarkable amount of people walking around in a public convention barefoot. Yeah. I went to there was this dude.
People talking about their feelings.
There was this dude who was
making me uncomfortable.
Who was pretty built. He looked pretty built, but he was barefoot the whole time. You know, kind of looked like a buffed hippie, and walked right in the bathroom and just.
Barefoot?
Yeah, dude, the whole time.
I did not see that.
Oh, yeah.
He's grounding to everybody's pee-pee.
I did not catch that. That must have been when we broke off a little bit.
Then there was a meditation tent.
Yeah.
Remember that? You had to take your shoes off and everything in there?
I thought that was a breastfeeding tent.
There was a breastfeeding tent.
Same one, wasn't it?
You went in there?
I didn't go in there. I went into the... No, I saw the meditation tent. Did you guys go in?
Here?
Did you guys go in any of
No, I didn't.
I went in there. Yeah, I went in there with Taylor.
Everything had fat in it. There was a lot of... it's interesting to see the trend that Bulletproof Coffee started. I saw a lot of things that you add to your coffee that had fat in them or collagen protein or something like that.
So each of you tell me what you liked and what you didn't like about the convention. What did you like? What did you not like?
I thought the clothes were horrible.
Oh, you don't like the clothes?
They had like no style, or like there was no presence for like apparel. You know, you think in like that kind of a culture, man, somebody that has like cool gear would like just sweep up.
That's a good point.
You know, like there was none of that. And so I thought that was a missed opportunity. And one of my favorite part was in the back in the VIP section where we got to all hang out and do the psychedelic light.
Oh, that shit was...
Oh, the lucid light?
Oh, man, that was fun.
That was weird.
It was really weird. And it was just, I don't know, it was something different.
What did you see when you're under that?
Just like a kaleidoscope of color and shapes and stuff, and it was just like,
did it feel
it's like somebody's like blasting you with a strobe light is basically what it was. But it there was some of it that was like, it was kind of trippy. I'll be honest.
It felt expansive at one point, right? Like you were like in this huge. Yeah, that was.
It was just fun. It was like a cool little featured item in there for us.
So hate the clothes, love the lucid light.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
Let's see. I don't know. I guess I like the vibe. The vibe there, as far as like the people, I felt a lot more people, like less ego, more people like wanting to help, and like having more of a healthy mindset.
I agree.
In contrast to other fitness expos I've been to, where like everybody is so self-centered and self-absorbed, and like the ego is like insane. So I thought that was a good difference.
You can clearly see what they're marketing towards or for. Mm-hmm. So when you go to like a fitness convention, what you have a lot of is really big, loud booths with like scantily clad girls, usually, that'll either, just be standing around, probably don't know much about the product, but they're obviously, they look a certain way. And at the Paleo FX booths, you didn't see any. I don't really see any of that. What you do see, though, however, is who can out natural who.
Yeah. The grounding shoes that Adam found. Oh my God, you got to tell him about that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, I came around the corner and I saw these. This is when Taylor and I took off for a little bit. and we split off, and I come around and I see these slipper looking shoes, and most of them are women's shoes, and I see like one pair of guys.
Like
and
penny loafers.
They look like penny loafers. And I stop and I ask the lady what these are, and she's like, "Oh, these are grounding shoes." And I'm like, "Oh, interesting, right?" So she gives me her sales pitch, and I believe Taylor videoed most of this. And she was probably in her early 60s or late 50s, and the owner of the company. And so I let her do her whole spiel, and then I convinced her to trade shoes for the day. And I said, "Listen, if you let me wear these grounding shoes, these brown ugly ass loafers with my jorts that I was wearing that day." So I had my cutoff jean shorts that day, and I thought, "Oh, these brown loafers will go great with this." So I put these grounding, and
it was quite a look.
Not copper, they had carbon fiber and something soles, so to connect me to the ground.
It wasn't even metal.
I think it was yak fur.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, we rocked those around for a while. I had a lot of fun kind of playing with her. As far as things that I liked and I didn't like, I did see a lot of parallels as the bodybuilding. It was just different. Like both of them are pretentious, just in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like Sal said, and Justin, I felt like there was this like competition on, and that was kind of what I did towards the end when I did the copper shoes and I was looking for the blue blockers. I was trying to be like, who could be more paleo, like by getting, and that's what I felt like. Bodybuilding does the same thing, and I know it's because I feel like the bodybuilding thing is further from you guys, so then it seems more silly. Mm-hmm. Than Paleo FX, but for me, I felt it was very similar because the bodybuilding, I could connect to some of it, and I can see, I can get like some of the style and some of the shit I wear, so I get it. But Paleo FX is probably further from my extreme. So to me, I saw very similar parallels in this extremes. That's what to me, both of them represent an extreme for a type of person or demographic that certain people will appeal to. With the bodybuilding culture, it's the, stunner shades on, it's the crazy Jordans and fancy shoes with the tapered sweatpants and the stringers, and then the boobs coming out at all the hot chicks there. Well, Paleo FX, you've got all the barefoot, the ugly ass, 5-finger shoes. What do you call those?
Yeah, the ones that Kyle had on too.
Yes, yeah, right there.
There's a lot of yoga pants.
Yeah, there's
and a lot of beards.
Yeah, a lot of
beards and yoga pants.
Lots of hipsters.
A lot of beard guys with yoga pants.
Lots of hipsters, lots of 5-finger shoes, lots of blue blockers, lots of competition on who can eat the most amount of fat and who can avoid the most amount of carbs. And then I also saw, just like in bodybuilding shows, like bodybuilding shows are heavily controlled by major sponsors who really dictate where booths are, the size of things, what's being talked about there. I felt this was very similar with Bulletproof.
Yeah,
there.
Bulletproof was the dominating force.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah.
They were the bodybuilding.com of paleo.
Exactly. Great example.
Yeah.
Like I think and they had the stages there. Obviously, they had a big say in probably who was speaking on there. The speakers, I dropped in on a few of them.
Wolf was excellent. Rob Wolf was amazing.
We saw a little bit of that.
Rob Wolf was solid, and our boy Dr. Ruscio.
Yeah, Dr. Ruscio killed it.
Yeah, we're solid.
Oh, Mike Salemi's little demo with the kettlebells.
Yeah, that went over real well there.
Killed
which is
it.
Cool.
Yeah, people loved it.
I'm really glad he got exposed there.
So there was some good. I think there was some good outliers there as far as speeches, and then the rest were like these panels that were pretty cheesy to me. I felt like. Sal made a comment one time. They were talking about economics up there, and it was this, they put 5 rich people up on this podium, and
it's this dichotomy, like paleo, because it's almost like, okay, so if you look at the cultures of certain things, it's very fascinating. What you need, what's really fun to do is to take a step back and look at the culture around, the tribalism around a particular brand or belief system. And it's not just that belief system. It actually spreads out. For example, like even the kettlebell sport world, when people were coming in, I noticed like everybody had the same backpack and everybody used the same brand of chalk, for example, right? Yeah. At paleo, in that particular world, there's this strong strain of free market, supporting free markets and capitalism, which people think what, but I mean CrossFit's very big on that as well, and they're part of the paleo world. So, but at the same time, you've got hippies that think capitalism is evil, right? So when they were talking economics, it was interesting to hear some of them almost apologize for being successful.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Which was really interesting to me because.
Well, you even got that from the guy in the back that was doing the psychedelic light show, like the lucid lighting. He was like conflicted about it. He's like having to make
succeeding.
it a business, and like actually, taking money for it and all. I'm like, what?
Yeah, well, that's how you spread it. That's
like,
how
I
it
don't
grows.
understand. Yeah, it's like, but you got that from a couple of the different booths. I felt like they're there as like a hobby, and there's a lot more hobby businesses there that were just like that, a little bit on the apologetic end of it, that they had to charge you for something.
Now I will say this: the definitely health and wellness is much more of a focus here than you would find at other fitness conventions.
Well, I don't think it's more of a focus as much of it is they have a better idea. They
got smarter speakers.
Because
That's the thing. Like,
because I think the other conventions think they're trying to do the same thing too, right?
Yeah.
I think
The smartest they got's like Lane Norton,
right?
And that's
so
their hero.
I think that other conventions are trying to do that. They just fail at it, and I think that paleo. I mean, when you're going paleo, you're doing this. The idea is it's all natural, whole foods, the way we evolved, and so. We have said many a times on this show, like, you're always going to be better off going that direction than any other direction. And I think bodybuilding conventions is, okay, what are you lacking? Let's try and supplement that and take a pill for that.
Or what builds the most muscle, what burns body fat.
Yes, right.
Because I didn't see not a single fat burner that was there.
No fat burners, no muscle builders either, nothing like that.
No.
That's where it was very different than like a bodybuilder.
Very interesting. I saw a lot of CBD products. Which is interesting because I know what the effective doses of CBD are, and some of these, like, they'd have this big bottle of CBD, and they're like, "Oh, it's liposomal, absorption CBD," and I'm like, "Oh, well, how many milligrams of CBD?" And they're like, "Oh, the whole bottle contains 10 milligrams." So literally, you could take the whole fucking bottle and not even get an effective dose, or maybe get a little bit of an effective dose.
Right.
Well, it's interesting you bring up, like, CrossFit had no presence there.
They didn't.
Like, I
was
like,
surprised.
It was like, to be honest, it was all about optimizing your health, and nobody wanted to work out. Like, there was some people doing stuff outside, but it was like nobody wanted to lift weights.
I was not okay when we were all heading over. We all said this, right? There was when we first were heading to Paleo FX, we all kind of like gave ourselves this little talk on what to expect, and we all agreed that, hey, listen, we're gonna go here with an open mind. We're not gonna, talk shit. We're gonna enjoy this. We're gonna absorb all of it. There's a good chance that this is a total new community for us. No one's gonna know who we are, so we'll just cruise the place, check some things out. But I don't want to be standing around with our thumbs up our ass and, hanging out there all day, like trying to be. And if, so we all kind of went in there with that. Things that surprised, and we all said, like, there's a good chance there's going to be a lot of CrossFitters, which is not a lot of CrossFitters are huge Mind Pump fans. So we kind of went in thinking that. And then when we got there, it wasn't like that at all. In fact, everybody was extremely friendly. There was a great vibe. There was a ton of Mind Pump fans that we would have never expected to be there. So that was really cool. And everybody was really warm and welcoming. It did not feel like it felt like for us when we walked around.
And the discussions I was able to have with people it was great. I had really deep conversations with a lot of vendors. There were, and our stances are, and sometimes we get miscategorized as being anti-supplement. We're just anti most supplements. And there were definitely supplement vendors there. And when I'd sit and ask them real questions and really talk, I didn't get the bullshit spiel. They were telling me honestly, and a lot of them, I'm not even joking. Like, this is crazy because I've never heard a supplement vendor say this, but they would say, they actually open up their conversation by saying, of course, nothing replaces good nutrition and good exercise. And if you're doing both really, really well, here's how this may help. Yeah. And I was blown away by people saying that to me who are selling a product. I was really, really blown away. I got to meet, I talked to people who sold exogenous ketones, and we had great conversations on exogenous ketones. And it opened with what they don't do. I've never had a supplement company do that. Like, hey, look, this is what it doesn't do this, right? Yeah. Usually they're telling you they're pie in the sky. Then I talked with one of the like executives of the mushroom company. What's the name? Four Sigmatic.
Four Sigmatic, yeah.
And we had a great conversation. And again, very open dialogue, very good conversation, very honest. I didn't feel like I was being, it wasn't a spiel. We were talking about the science. We were talking about Eastern medicine and how certain things are used, and how mushrooms play a different role in one's diet, and how they're not vegetables, they're not fruit, but they should be considered an essential, like those two things, and how they different, how they have different benefits. And so we had great conversation there. It was the most fun I've ever had at a convention. Here's one thing that I was a little bit not turned off by, but more skeptical, was all the nootropic companies, because there were a lot of synthetic nootropic companies out there. And the one place where I could see this crowd pushing similar to the way bodybuilding pushes like fat loss and muscle building at all costs, is I could kind of see the whole push improve cognition at all costs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I see the same
might
thing.
not be it's not healthy. We don't know if it's healthy. We don't know the long-term effects, or we're not going to even talk about the negatives, but if it optimizes your cognition, then go for it. Mm-hmm. I got a little bit of that from the nootropic companies. And, I posted a shit ton of Insta stories. Actually, Adam was making fun of me because I must have posted like 30 of them. But the reason why I posted so many of them
Insta-wad.
is I took every nootropic that was thrown at me, because I said to myself, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not going to lie. It's
we got optimized.
I took a shit ton of nootropics. Yeah. And I was definitely in an altered state of mind.
How about your single favorite person that you hung out with, spent time with, or got the chance to talk with this weekend?
Oh, wow.
Just one. You only get one.
I only get one?
One human.
Because there's a lot of...
There was a lot of... That's why I want each one of you to nail down one.
I'll say... First, I want to talk about Kyle.
No, don't preface it with three other people to lead to one. Give me one.
Yeah,
Give me one. Explain it. You don't get to fucking take everybody's...
All right. Well, it's an entity, so it's more than one person. It's a group.
Well, you can't do that either.
No,
you can't
you
do
have to pick one from that
one
group.
person, bro. Why is this so difficult?
Well, it's only the second time.
Jesus.
It's only the second time I've met and talked to Mike Bledsoe from
there you go.
Barbell Shrugged. And I've only talked to him 2 times, right? When we interviewed him, and then this time at the Paleo FX, we had them over and did a big podcast with everybody. And Mike Bledsoe is one of my favorite human beings. Just a fucking great guy, very interesting. Me and him could talk forever, and he's hilarious. So I'd say he's probably my favorite.
That has nothing to do with him saying that he's just like you, right?
Yeah. Right.
No, I think he's...
I don't think he's anything like you, by the way. That's
Yeah,
an interesting.
No, I think
pitch for him.
I think he said that because
He was just trying to pick a characteristic.
Well, we
from one of us.
we both have strong chemistry. No, we both have good. We both kind of have good conversation.
So Mike Bledsoe for you, Justin.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I actually really enjoyed the conversation with Andy from Barbell Shrug.
And brilliant!
Just because he's such a fascinating
smart guy,
and I'm just really fascinated to learn more about him, and just the short conversations we had, and then meeting up with him again. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with him again and picking his brain. So
I want to have him on the show.
Yeah,
the guy's,
I want to have him on the show for sure.
He's a smart motherfucker.
Yeah. He's actually in it. He's in the lab. He's in there in the muscular.
What blew me away is when we were
anatomy.
recording how we talked about. I've brought this up on a few episodes.
Bodybuilding history.
Him can talk bodybuilding and muscle building history forever. But I even mentioned it, I think 3 episodes ago, where
the water.
You want to have certain amounts of stress, and we constantly put ourselves out of stress, and that includes the things that we don't touch. Like, you need to have sleep all the time, you need to have water all the time, and I've talked about this. I talked about it on Raw.
So proud you called it.
Well, I'm happy. I'm very very happy.
Awesome.
I feel confirmed because I even talked about it on Rob's Wolf episode where I said, I bet you. It's probably a good idea to sometimes not have water throughout the day because it elicits it's a stress, right? Or I wonder if every once in a while it's a good idea to not get a lot of sleep. It might be good for you, just like fasting, all these other things. And we were doing a podcast with Barbell Shrugged, and Andy brought it up, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And he actually wrote a book where he talked about that, and I was like, fuck yeah, I feel like I was on the right track. So that was cool because he's a really smart guy. I really respect him.
Yeah.
I thought Justin stole mine because I did get a chance to spend some time talking to Andy, and I really liked him. So since he did, someone else who we spent some good time with I really liked was Josh from Wellness Force.
Oh, yeah, great guy.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
Josh Trent. Yeah.
What a great guy.
Just a cool story, great guy, very intelligent, like really hit it off with him. He's got a podcast called Wellness Force, and you guys will hear the episode.
Past and present tense at the same time.
Yeah, you'll hear the episode that we did with him while we were up there soon coming out. But that was a great time with him. And it was neat because first time we ever met, he came over to the place, we recorded, hit it off, and then he literally just stayed with us the whole rest of the time and hung out for the Barbell Shrug crew to get there and have a good time. Had a great time talking to Doug from Barbell Shrug too, also brilliant mind. So man, that whole crew, and I know you wanted to pick them as an entity because so that's not fair because
even Alex, like he was like fun to talk to, and he's in it, like
one of my favorite groups for sure.
Yeah.
What always is interesting to me is because we started podcasting and had no experience with how it works or operates, and we just kind of did things our own way. And I didn't realize how shocking it was, or how different it was, I should say, to podcast the way we podcast. Because every single time we work with other podcasters, they're always like, that's how you guys prepare for a show? Like you just start recording?
Well, they all have kind of more of a formula, and we tend to kind of just go with the breeze.
Well, everybody's always like, oh my God, I like doing it this way, where we could just sit down and have a conversation. I'm like, nobody else does that, and I didn't know that that's not how it works.
Well, so many people do the formula interview style where it's like question, you answer, question, you answer, question.
Round robin.
Yeah, and I think that we agreed a long time ago that we didn't like that. We liked this normal, and I feel like it feels more real that way because you could prepare for questions. Like if I send over a guy like, hey, I'm going to ask you these 5 questions. It's like, dude, well, that sucks because then he could sit there and he could prepare for the best answer possible to make himself look the best or to present the information the way he wants to present it. Well, that's not what I want. I want what's going through your brain like immediately when I ask it. Like, so I think we give that respect to our audience that listen to us. Like we don't prepare for anything. We literally,
and we also address our audience, which is something you brought up. That I've noticed too, like going with other podcasters, like how sometimes you can get into like, I'm just talking to you right next to me over here, instead of I'm talking more, bringing the audience into the conversation instead of like, it's just you and me in the room.
I was critiquing somebody's podcast this last week. And that was one of the things that I was telling him that he's got to be careful of when he does these podcasts is, the story sounds really cool to you when you're listening to it because you were a part of that story. But if your audience doesn't know who the fuck your guests are or the people that you guys are talking about.
Or the story you're talking about.
Yeah, or the story you're talking about. It just sounds, it's like don't you hate when you're in a group of like 10 people and you're the new guy or you're the guy who doesn't know everybody and then they all just start.
And they all start speaking Spanish.
Yeah, well, they all start telling stories of their time in college together or some shit. And you're just like, okay, this is cool because I'm just can't be a part of this conversation at all. I have nothing to provide to it because it's not a time that I was with all these people. So I feel like you got to be careful that as a podcaster that when you're talking about stories or you're sharing things that sure people enjoy stories, but to completely leave them out of it and just have this like conversation without engaging the audience, I think is something that they got to be careful of.
Yeah, it was a good time all around.
Yeah.
It was definitely will be there next year.
We will be there next year and already working on some cool shit that we're gonna do at PaleoFX. I'm excited.
Bring it,
bring the bird.
Chimera Quaff! Today's Quaff is being brought to you by Chimera Coffee. It's the only coffee that is infused with all natural nootropics for a cleaner, calmer, and more focused buzz without the crash. Click the Chimera link at mindpumpmedia.com and input the discount code MINDPUMP at checkout for 10% off.
It's the motherfucking Quaff.
The eagle has landed.
All right, our first question is from Healthy, Happy, and Free. They are asking about pyramid workouts versus doing a warm-up and then going into working sets.
So I'm assuming when they say pyramid workout, where let's say my working set for bench press is...
They're ramping up.
Let's say my working set's 225 pounds. I'm going to start with, 105 and do a set, adding 20 pounds until I get to my working set, and then I do my working sets, right?
That's what I'm getting from it.
Whereas a warm-up is...
I think they're using the pyramid workout as part of their warm-up versus warming up and then going right into the working.
And going right in?
Yeah.
I feel like they're almost the same thing, right? I mean, unless the pyramid workout is more intense throughout the... Because I instinctually...
I've done both.
I instinctually will do that. I'll instinctually warm up, which is priming. So I do my priming session, which, by the way, I hate the term warm-up because... Mm-hmm. The connotation with warm-up is that you're trying to...
warm the body up, get the blood flowing.
Yeah, warm it up and prevent injury, which that's the absolute least a warm-up should do. That's a given. It's like, it would be like me passing my driver's test because I didn't crash. Like, the guy's going to be like, well, fuck, I hope not. Like, but were you able to do all these other things? A true warm-up should...
True DMV analogy, since that's
Yeah.
where the DMV analogy comes. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You just spent fucking 6 hours there.
Yeah. A true warm up should set up the most effective recruitment pattern based on your body, because it's different from person to person. So that means if you have forward shoulder, you're doing a certain type of priming before you bench, or if you have your glutes don't fire, you're doing a certain priming before you squat or whatever. So you're trying to promote the right recruitment pattern. You're trying to promote good mobility through full ranges of motion. You're trying to turn on the central nervous system so that you can fire efficiently and effectively. Then when I'm done with my priming, which honestly only takes about 10 to 30 minutes at the most. If I'm doing a real heavy workout, it might take 25 minutes, but typically it's about 10 minutes. Then I go in, and the first weight that I pick to lift with is not the heaviest weight I'm going to lift. I still will start with a lighter weight just so I can work my way up. So I don't know if you want to call that pyramid or not, but I would say ideally you'd want to prime and then pyramid.
Well, I think I'm going to simplify a little bit more what you just said, because I think what you said is an excellent answer, but might have confused some people with the understanding of what the priming is really accomplishing and how is that different than pyramiding your workouts. Here's where it's really different. Pyramiding your workouts, if we were to pyramid squats and we were to prime for squats, this is how they look very different. So pyramid workout for squats means I get under the squat rack. I barely put 100 pounds on my back. I squat, then I go to 150. I squat, then I go, and then by the time I'm getting up to 300-400 pounds, my body is completely primed to warm up before I do my quote unquote working sets. So that would be a pyramid. Now, when I prime my body for squats, the squatting movement itself is just a very, very small piece of the priming. I have to actually open up my shoulders. I've got to get that thoracic mobility going. I got to open my hips.
And this is your individual priming.
Yeah, this is my individual, right? So I got to work on my ankle mobility.
So how do you do that? Maybe break that down for people.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is and I start with my foot, right? So I start with all my foot exercises and priming, my lacrosse ball in the center, kind of opening that. I literally just did this today, just right before you got here, Sal. So I'm working on all my foot connectivity, doing my ankle mobility, stretches, and priming. Then I get up to my hips. I get into my 90-90, and I start doing that. And then I get into my deep squat and work on my thoracic mobility with my bands, which I just posted on Instagram. Now, all of that priming or warming up, quote unquote, leads me to having a good mechanical squat. So I could do squats all day long without doing those, and my squat will not look as good as it will when I prime all those areas that I need work on. Right. And those are very, very specific to me, because if I don't do that, then I won't have the good...
There's interruptions in the kinetic chain.
Yes.
So if I'm just getting into the squat portion of it, I'm not addressing how everything is communicating properly. And, like the reason why we prime and we do all these things is to really solidify the proper channels to stay ahead of the pack. So it's like your body's natural inclination is to recruit whatever process is going to be most efficient. And so what you have to do with the priming is look at it more as a teaching Like I'm teaching my body that this is the way that I need my hips to function and to engage in this process. This is how I need my ankles to engage in this process and stay in this process, and all the way up the kinetic chain, so where my shoulders have to be retracted and depressed, and my wrists, like everything. And this is where identifying these things that may be an interruption in that kinetic chain, and that process is where the weak links are. That's why we really focus on that. Like, and that's part of the prime process, and that's going into the working set.
Well, this is extremely important for most all people. About the only person I see a pyramid workout, or where you just don't even prime the body, you get right into your squats and you count those as your warm up, is somebody who's got incredible squat technique where they can go ass to grass and their shoulders are retracted fine. They got good foot connection. They got great ankle mobility. If you've got great mobility, you could probably go right into a squat and get right into it connected and be fine. And this would work okay. But a majority, and I'm talking like 80% plus of all clients I've ever trained in my life, need a lot of those imbalances addressed before they go into especially a movement like a squat. Now, pyramid working to do bicep curls, now we're talking about something totally different. Like, right, you go into your workout and you're about to go do bicep curls. Does it require this, extensive warm up to get your biceps to fire correctly? No, not really. So pyramiding on that is totally different than when we're talking about compound lifts like a squat, like a deadlift, like a bench press, like an overhead press. These big compound movements that require multiple parts of the body to speak to each other, that is a whole different ball game than doing like an isolation curl or doing like a single basic muscle like a bicep or tricep.
Warming up. If you warm up and you're not priming, what you're doing is you're warming up the bad recruitment pattern. You're just strengthening the recruitment pattern that's not ideal for you. So it would be like a kid who holds a pencil in a very inefficient way. Maybe they just hold it with their whole hand like a caveman, right? And that's how they write.
Or like how kids wear hold crayons.
Yeah, hold crayons. And I just tell the person, keep practicing writing. They will become as efficient as they possibly can holding it that way. Now, we know if you hold it a different way that the efficiency can increase tremendously. But before I have them practice, I have to teach them. I have to teach the body how to hold a pencil, and then we work through that way. Otherwise, they're just going to get really good at holding it, like a crayon. Same is true for movements. If I'm not priming, if I'm just warming up, just getting warm, and then jump into my sets, all I'm doing is I'm strengthening that recruitment pattern that's not ideal. And this is when you have people who, hey, I squat all the time. I do lunges all the time. My butt, I never feel it in my butt, or my glutes don't build, or, my shoulders hurt every time I bench press, so I'm not going to bench press anymore. Or when I do back exercises, I just feel it in my biceps. I don't get my back to fire, or, bad, posture or whatever.
Yeah, when I squat, my knees hurt, or when I squat, my low back hurts.
All that stuff. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, priming properly, let's say you take your workout, whatever your workout is right now. Don't change it. Don't do a damn thing to it. Keep it the same, no matter how bad it is. Don't change anything. And just prime properly. And when I say properly, I don't mean that there's specific techniques that are better than others. I mean there are specific techniques that are better for you than others. It's very individual. The way Adam primes a squat could be drastically and dramatically different than the way someone else primes or squat. It could be very, very different. So once you learn how to prime your body properly for yourself, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to see better results out of the same workout. Significantly better results. A lot better. In fact, that's the feedback we get with like MAPS Prime. That's what MAPS Prime was trying to address.
This is exactly why we created it, is so you could do it. It comes with a compass, so an at-home test that you do. And the test is going to point out the areas that you need to address. And those areas are how you prime your body, and it leads you right to what movements are best to prime that area before you go into a squat, a bench, deadlift, any of these movements that we're talking about. If you do that, okay, 100%, the very first time you do it, you will see a difference. 100%.
Right away.
Yes.
Yep.
Away. And the older you are, or the more imbalances and more injuries and more issues that you've had with your body, whether it be aches and pains or injuries, the more apparent that will be.
Yeah.
So maybe your 20-year-old gymnast may not be this huge drastic difference for you. It'll help. But the people that this is a game changer for is the rest of the population. Somebody who has poor recruitment patterns because we sit at a desk a lot, or we have a job that requires us to use one side more than the other, or you're whatever. Like all these things that we do repetitively day in and day out are creating poor recruitment patterns, and priming is trying to get you to have the most ideal ones before you go into these big movements.
And believe it or not, from an aesthetic standpoint, if you have lagging body parts or areas that you're trying to focus on, and you're doing all these like great movements, like, hey, my delts won't build, but I do so many overhead presses, or my back just doesn't get developed, and I do all these rows and all these pull-ups and whatever. Like from an aesthetic standpoint, if you prime properly, according to what you want to develop more or less, it's going to make it'll make those exercises. Everybody here is like lunges and squats and deadlifts, so effective for the glutes. Well, if you have an issue connecting your glutes, they're not effective for your glutes. It doesn't matter what you do. But if you prime properly, all of a sudden you yield the benefits of these exercises, and they're so damn effective for certain things. You just have to be able to get the body to move the way you want. And so, and I'll say this with all confidence, once you prime your workouts properly, you'll never not prime again. It makes that big of a difference.
Quick interruption by our sponsors, you guys. Lots of people have been asking us how they can support the Mind Pump Mafia family. Our first one is our Chimera coffee that we love. You guys go to chimeracoffee.com. That's Chimera with a K for 10% off. Don't forget Mind Pump at the checkout. We also have our BigTopBeardCompany.com for 33% off. Also Mind Pump at the checkout. Also Brain FM. We talk so much about this for sleep and meditation. It's brain.fm for 20% off. Also Mind Pump at the checkout. You guys, we also talk a lot about books on here all the time. We're using that Audible. You guys can get a free trial, 30-day trial, plus one free audiobook if you go to audibletrial.com/mindpump. And then last, we get lots of people asking about Ben Greenfield's CBD supplement, so we hit him up to hook you guys up. You go to getnaturedblend.com/mindpump for that discount.
Next question is from Shan Kelly. Which entrepreneurial mind, author, speaker have you learned from the most this past year?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's got to be...
Man.
I mean, Tom Bilyeu's got to be up there, right?
Yeah, he's one of them.
Yeah,
Well, each of us individually probably could pick somebody here. What do you think? That's yours?
From an entrepreneurial standpoint?
Well, author, entrepreneurial mind, author, speaker. Yeah.
I mean, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, Tom Bilyeu kind of blew my mind because of the story behind like what made Quest one of the fastest growing companies in American history. People don't realize this is a food company. Obviously, they make bars and stuff, but I think they were the second or like fourth fastest growing company, period, when they were introduced to the market. And one of the things that blew me away was they looked at the ingredients that they wanted, and whether you agree with their ingredients in their bars or not, I'm not a big fan of protein bars in general, so it's not like I'm a huge fan of their products. I'm talking about from a business standpoint. They wanted certain ingredients to be in their product, and they wanted them made a certain way, and they were told it was impossible from a production standpoint with all the food manufacturers. Like they're like, it's not going to happen. It'll cost way a lot of money, and it's going to be, it's just not possible. And so what they did was they actually invented the equipment to make the bars. Mm-hmm. So they had to create the process.
Little Ray Kroc.
Yeah, exactly. And from one standpoint, requires balls, like shit ton of balls, in the sense that you've got to take a big risk now. You're investing a lot of money on new equipment to build your your bars or your food product. So they had to go out and invent the process. Mm-hmm. And from another standpoint, you want to talk about like believing in your dream. I mean, not only believing in your dream, but not being married to it. And what I mean by that is I think sometimes we believe, and I've been guilty of this, you believe in a dream so much that then you fail to recognize when it's time to change or move on because you become so married to it. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because you've invested a lot of time and money. So, and this is there's actually a psychological term to describe this. I can't remember the name of it, but when you feel like you've invested too much time and money in something, to bail, we'll stick around for something that's just shitty. It's a shitty situation, a shitty idea, but you're like, I've already spent this much time and money. I'm going to just keep pushing and seeing it through. And one thing that he did was he got bored with it and wanted to do other things, and so he left. I mean, he left $1 billion company to kind of do some other stuff, which is very fascinating. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I would say definitely Tom Bilyeu, and then I'll think about something else while you guys are answering.
Yeah, I think you definitely stole, Tom Bilyeu is a big one for me for sure, but I also am very impressed with Ben Greenfield and just his motor that he has, and like what he accomplishes on a daily basis, and just watching him work, being around the guy and being involved in so many things. I mean, you see him all over Facebook, you see him at all these conventions, he's the master of networking and partnerships and this podcasting game. I mean, I feel like he's definitely like modeled a lot of what it means to be a valid business person in the podcasting world. And I've learned a lot just by, watching him operate, and obviously like, helping us out and being that kind of a guy that's also a giver. So he's not just like dominating everybody. He's very, very much of a, he'll reciprocate and inclusive. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
He knows how to be the center of attention for sure. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. Like, he knows how to, like at Paleo FX.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere he went, he's
the man.
Though. He was the one everybody was paying attention to, because he was not afraid to take his shirt off, try out the piece of equipment, take the supplement in a weird way. If they had a test, like who can lift this 1,000 times, he'll do it. Like, the guy is, he doesn't give a shit. So,
yeah. So first I want to say that this was something I was extremely surprised in when we started doing this. I definitely have learned something from every guest that we've had. I've learned a ton from all the guests we've had. Where I was surprised was not a lot of them are super business savvy.
Yeah.
In fact, the more educated they were or more successful they were in another arena, as far as whether it be a book or a PhD or a scientist guy, whatever, they seem to really lack in other areas. And the business side happened to be one of the more challenging ones and more common ones I saw amongst almost all the guests we've had. So when the boys point out Ben Greenfield and Tom, those are the only two that came to mind for me right away. Other than, I will give kudos to Doug and the boys at Barbell Shrugged. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about an entrepreneurial mind, that what they're doing right now in the CrossFit community, they're fucking the game up. Like, there's nobody that's going to touch them for the next 5 to 10 years. They're that far ahead of everybody else. What they're doing is absolutely brilliant. I got a really good chance to talk with Doug and Mike Bledsoe are the two original guys that started it all and brought the first CrossFit to where were they at? Not Wisconsin,
Tennessee.
Tennessee, is that right?
Tennessee.
The first, oh my God,
little throwback.
Tennessee.
They were the first guys to bring a CrossFit there, and they are now the first guys to create the software that helps all these other CrossFit box gym owners organize their business and be successful. And they're fucking killing it, doing it. So I had an incredible time spending time with them. I look forward to our relationship in the future and talking more with them. Before them, I've said it multiple times, I think on this podcast already, that Tom Bilyeu has been, to me, the guy who I reach out to the most when it comes to business stuff and want to pick his brain on what he thinks. Because he's been a part of building $1 billion company. Like, so the guys that I want to know, like, if you've built something that's worth $100 million or more, these are the minds that I'm most interested in.
And they mentioned authors and books, and I just don't. I've always been a big people to people, person to person interest when it comes to business, because I want to actually see them in action in their business, not just like how they wrote it all out in a fancy way. Because it could be anybody that writes a book that has the philosophy behind it, and like they've done this in academics well, but a lot of times it's a big facade. So
very much so, a major facade. And a lot of times, most of the financial success that these guys have earned is they wrote a fucking great book because they're smart. They're very smart. They wrote an incredible book. It's not because they have this incredible business sense and they can build something out of nothing. Tom Bilyeu is such a great example of this because, one, he just came from being a part of building a billion-dollar company, and you're now getting the opportunity to watch him build impact theory right now. So if you like these type of people and these type of people intrigue you, if you're not watching what Tom Bilyeu is doing on all his platforms and paying close attention, you're missing the fuck out. Because, and this is what I've been telling everybody that I meet that has a similar question as this, is that, listen, what these guys are doing, what he is doing currently at this moment is unbelievable. Ben Greenfield is also really cool to watch what happens to somebody who builds a very successful business around themselves and is now trying to pivot out of that.
Trying to transition,
Yes, Ben has kind of been there, done that, made his money, been very successful, very, very successful on his own. So he's extremely impressive what he's done by himself. And now he's trying to transition out of his own company that he named after himself and what that's like. So those two guys right now are great guys to pay attention and watch. And then also, if you're fans of Barbell Shrugged, Doug and Mike Bledsoe, the work that they're doing, hands down, the way I look at it, those three guys are that class. And we've interviewed a fuck ton of people, a ton of great minds, intelligent, awesome people. Nobody touches them. You know who, in my opinion.
You know who, from a not from a business standpoint, but really impacted me on just a whole life kind of philosophy.
Oh,
type
Paul
level.
Chek for sure.
Paul Chek he embodies,
but awful at business, bro.
Right,
awful.
Right.
Yeah,
but he literally embodies all the stuff that we preach, and the direction that we are all trying to take our own personal understanding to. Like, he is so far ahead of, and I'll just speak for myself, so far ahead of his own awareness and understanding of all these things than I am, that I can only hope to be where he's at when I'm his age. Like, the guy's mind-blowing. The thing that Paul doesn't do well sometimes is the way he communicates it, because he just speaks, and sometimes he says shit and it blows people out of the water, or he says it in a way to where people just don't,
right over their head.
They don't want to listen.
Yeah.
But there's so much genius in what he says. I mean, I'll give you an example, and I might have brought this up in a previous episode, but when this is just one thing that blew me away. When we were all eating dinner, and Paul Chek's not a religious person, but he would consider himself very spiritual.
Yeah, you talked about this just the other day.
He takes a second and does something over his food. Like, he puts his hand around the food and he says something and he eats. And I'm like, well, you're not religious. You're not praying. Like, what are you doing? And the way he explains it will blow everybody out of the water. Like, I'm asking myself, my soul, if I want to eat this. I'm asking the food if it wants to be eaten, and if we're going to do this energy transfer. And he says all this stuff, and you're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you really slow down and think about it, he's being super aware and connected to what he's eating. That's all he's doing. And if we all took the time to sit there and ask those questions before we ate, we'd all make better food choices. All he's doing is he's making himself super present when he's about to eat. And so as a result, his choices are usually very, very good. So that's just one example of some of the stuff. And then, his painting in between sets of his exercise, and you'll hear more about that.
That'd be hard to eat
episodes.
Oreo after all that.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, he's also he's a very good example, though, of, like I said, all the other people that we met that are brilliant. I mean, we met tons of brilliant people, so I don't want to discredit anybody else that we didn't talk about, because there has not been a guest here that I didn't learn a lot from. Everybody I've had, I feel so blessed to have interviewed all these great minds, but when you ask a question like entrepreneurial mind,
for sure.
that totally
the ones that we
carves off a whole shit ton of them.
I know,
because
there's few of those.
Yeah, and there's it's one thing to build a business that's very successful for yourself, right? Like you're a good entrepreneur. You built it up enough to sustain a living for yourself. You're comfortable. You have the things that you need. Maybe you have like an assistant, and you're good to go. Like that's one type of business. And for me, I think almost everybody that we meet has at least that skill set. But what I'm really drawn to, because I've been in my career where I've been at the sticking point of taking a company to a $100 million company, and what it takes to build a business to that level, it takes a whole nother breed of a person, a whole nother mind. And the closest mind that I think we've come across that is like that would definitely be Tom Bilyeu.
Mm-hmm. Next question is from Rachel D. Rachel is a trainer that has hit a plateau with the number of hours she can train and needs to find me time. What is the next step in advancing her career?
Isn't she a cooking channel chick?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Rachel D?
Oh, I don't know.
Isn't Rachel D a name?
No, it's Rachel Ray.
Rachel Ray.
That's close.
I think, yeah.
This is a good question. So you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when people, parents in particular, moms more specifically, become martyrs for what they're doing. Like, it's all about the kids. It's all about them. I don't do anything for myself. And as a result, they're very stressed out. They become very miserable, and they find that they're not aware of how ineffective and inefficient they are at doing the stuff that they prioritize, which is, maybe their children, or for example. Or you see a lot of guys doing this. You see men and women doing this with business. Like, I'm business, so much so that I won't take care of my body. I won't take care of my health. I won't meditate. I won't do vacations or do things with my family. Mm-hmm. And as a result, what people don't realize is they become very inefficient and ineffective. And looking back, I can use myself as an example. When I managed health clubs, now I had nothing else. I had no other responsibility, so it really didn't matter. I loved being at the gym. But I would be there from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., usually sometimes 7 days a week. And if I look at the amount of money I earned and divided it by the amount of hours that I worked, I wasn't earning that much money per hour.
Yeah,
I was very, very ineffective.
You're just occupying space. Time.
And most of the time I was there, if I'm being quite honest, I wasn't being efficient with my job. So if you're a trainer and you're super focused on building your business, not taking care of you is going to hurt your business as well as the fact that now you're realizing that you don't have that me time, and you'll start to resent your clients and your job, and you won't have the energy and all that stuff. So from a business standpoint, it's very, very smart to schedule in me time, period. Like, take care of you, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot devote and be your most effective self if you're not optimizing yourself. So that's number one. Now, from a more specific standpoint, as a trainer, if you're training 10 clients a day and you're charging $70 an hour, and you're really good at getting clients, and that's a ton of clients every single day,
you need to raise your rates.
Raise your price. There are certain signals in the market that you need to be wise to. I've had trainers actually come to me and tell me, ooh, I work so many hours and I have a waiting list of 3 months. Well, your pricing is off. Yeah. You are not understanding demand of your products. And if you have this long waiting list, what you're doing is you're hurting your business. Number one, people aren't benefiting from it, and you're not maximizing your time. What you should be doing is, rather than charging $70 an hour and working 10 hours, is maybe charge $100 an hour and train 7 hours or whatever. Do the math and figure out where you can make up the difference. So now you're training less. You're making the same amount. You're probably more of an effective trainer to the people you're training, because you're not so spent, and you're reading the demand of your services a little bit better. So, number one, if you're training shit tons of hours, you probably need to charge more. Number two, do and schedule time for yourself, because it's going to make you a more effective business person and trainer.
Well, I like this question because it feeds into what we're currently talking about at Mind Pump Media right now. And we real soon here are going to kick off a seminar that will be for free the first time, where we're going to invite trainers just like yourself to come down here. So this would be something that, I don't know where you live, but it'll be worth your plane ticket because it will be free. And in the future, we will charge for stuff like this, where we're going to hold a, how to make six figures in the fitness industry. And one of the things that I know I for sure want to discuss is what I've thought about fitness for the last at least 5 to 6 years, is that it has to evolve, it has to change, and we are in the decade right now where you're going to watch that happen. And I think that the trainer model that we've seen for the last 20 plus years is going to drastically change. I think with the amount of tools that are out there and technology that we have, and the ability to feel and stay connected to people virtually, literally minute by minute every day, I think is going to devalue that one-on-one time. Now, does that mean that nobody will ever have a one-on-one trainer where they pay top dollar? Absolutely not. There is still going to be clients who have lots of money and they want that private treatment of having a trainer standing in front of them. But for the majority, we are heading in the direction. And we kind of saw this happen after the .com era crash. We saw this major transition from during .com. We saw it was almost trendy to have a trainer because everybody had money. Everybody had this extra income to spend on a personal trainer, and health and fitness has been on an uptick for quite some time. And now people
had to scramble to create a group class.
Exactly. And so then you saw the .com era crash. And like what Justin just said, soon trainers like myself, I remember this time, were like, oh shit, like I actually have to work to get clients. There was a time there where it felt like people were constantly walking in the door and looking for training. All I had to do was convince them on how long they needed to train with me or what we needed to focus on. And then I went through this transition of, oh shit, I actually need to get aggressive and go like find people to train. And then it got really challenging. I thought, man, not everybody can afford it. And this is one of those things that this is where they're cutting back. People are getting laid off, their wages are getting cut. And back then, training was looked at as a luxury. And so luxury things tend to go first. And so training started to go away. And so those trainers that still were used to that income like I was, and I wasn't willing to let that go, I had to get creative. And one of the ways I became creative was I started to create these boot camps that I was running outside of the gym that I was currently working at. And this allowed me to supplement my income. So I actually increased every single year as a trainer, but it didn't get easier every year. In fact, it forced me to look outside and do that. Well, now I feel like we're looking at, the evolution of the group training classes have now evolved into CrossFit boxes, Orange Theories, all these membership-based classes that are small, intimate, 20 to 40 people tops. And you get a personal trainer in there, so you feel like you're kind of getting one-on-one, but you're not really getting one-on-one. And it's a monthly fee that's super affordable, like $100 to $200 a month. Well, I think the next evolution to that is even less of the time with the trainer and even more affordable. So if you're not already transitioning yourself into building a business around YouTube, social media, live streaming, a lot of what you're watching Mind Pump Media do, and we're far from done right now, this is what I believe is the future of personal training, and you will need to get on board or find a company like ours when we're all in place to help you build that.
Yeah, and I think now too, like as you're in a sort of transitional part of your business where you've pretty much maxed out on the amount of hours that you can do per day and fill in with clients. Like Sal said, you have to start, you address your rates and start opening up more time for yourself to venture into other ideas. The thing that I love about the fitness industry the most is how much room there is for people to venture off into all kinds of different niches. And there's a lot of directions that you can go, even now that we're kind of merging into the health and wellness side as well. So my suggestion is to really, start opening up your time more. Think about what kind of products that you can create, whether it's a book, whether it's, a tangible product, something you see within your niche, or get more education, specializing yourself to separate and voice something very specific. So that way you're more searchable, and you can actually, as you increase your rates, it makes more sense because you're so specialized. And we're not necessarily on that. We're not specialized. I mean, we definitely have our backgrounds that are kind of specialized, but what we're doing, I mean, unless you want to create a super group like we got, where we're trying to become a platform to provide quality specialists to come into our system and get exposure that way. Definitely going the specialist route, I think, is something to look into and pursue.
I really like that.
I was going to ask you guys, what do you guys think for most average trainers? What do you think the most hours they should train per day to maximize both their career, but also makes them really good at being a trainer?
That question you're asking is a really tough one.
It's a tough one, right?
It's tough
because I've done like 12-hour days, like I smashed the hours out.
Yeah, but you're pretty exceptional. You're an exceptional trainer. I know you very well, and I know that the last client is going to get the same level of commitment and service as the first.
Right.
Well, no matter how good you are,
you'll burn yourself out, though.
No matter how good you are, as those hours increase, the attention to detail, the service you're going to provide. I don't care how good you are. So you could argue all day that, hey, I can handle 8, 10, 12 in a day. But if you ask that same person, do you service 12 people better in a day or 4 people better in a day? That person would be lying if they said they service.
Yeah, because I think what I used to tell trainers that worked for me when I had like my private facility, right, is I would tell them, your goal is to train 30 hours a week and figure out within those 30 hours, what you need to charge and make to be, to basically what your target is, because you don't want to make that having to work 40 or 50 hours a week. Personal training requires a lot of energy. There's a lot of jobs where if you're kind of in a bad mood or kind of tired, you could just sit quietly at your desk and do your job and, do your thing. With personal training, your client shows up, you're on for that whole hour. You can't, be quiet. You can't be off. You can't be tired. You can't not be compassionate. You can't not be, empathetic. You have to just be awesome pretty much all day long. So if you're training 8 clients in a day, you are on for 8 hours and you're working for 8 hours. It's very, very emotionally and mentally draining. So I used to tell my trainers 6 hours is what I recommend for most people. Everybody's a little different, but for me, I would go, and of course I would always push the limit. But I found when I trained about 6, I was great. 8 was pushing it. 10, I used to do a lot of 10 client days.
I went all the way down to 3 or 4 a day max. That's how I operated for a long time, and I loved it.
Well, here's something for you to think about it. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I know we've talked about this many times off air, is that if you don't know that YouTube by next year will be the number 1 search engine. So it will pass Google. It's owned by Google too. So it's not like that's a big deal to them. But think about that for a second, that if you're a part of a generation right now that, let's pretend this was when Google first started, and if let's say you were starting, like Justin said, you're trying to find a niche in the fitness industry, that something that you love to do or that you bring to the table that's unique and different. And imagine if you could be the person that most of the searches come up for that arena or that area. And to put that in perspective, you can watch what Mind Pump is doing right now. There's a reason why we drop a video every single day, and every day it's a very slow. We add between 40 to 60 subscribers every single day.
Yeah.
And it's a long grind. But when you think about it, in 10 years from now, when we have thousands of videos that are out there with thousands of different titles, all related to health and fitness, we are trying to dominate the search engine, and hopefully with good quality videos and good information that you can trust, that over the next 5 to 10 years, when people go to YouTube to search for something related to what we talk about, we're going to be one of the top YouTube channels that pop up. Well, as a trainer, I wish somebody would have told me this way back when it first started. I didn't really understand how. I thought YouTube was more of a entertainment thing when it first started. I didn't look at it as like a business tool like I do now. And so if you're a fitness person and you're not looking into all these different platforms as a tool to catapult your business, you're slowly bleeding out right now. If you're just doing the basic 9 to 5 or 9 to 10 o'clock, whatever your hours are of training clients, there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to be. If you want to make your X amount of dollars, you love people, you love seeing them every day. For me, I was over that really quick. Like it would only a couple of years into personal training, and I knew I wanted more. I wanted to do something else, and that it was very wearing and I get tired all day long of giving all my energy to these individual people. So, if you're not already looking in the direction of different social media platforms to leverage.
Well, let's talk about that, because look what's already happening with employers, how they're looking at your following.
Yes.
Going into. So say this job right now that you currently have isn't panning out, and you're trying to apply for another job in another gym, they're going to look and see what kind of following you have versus the other
crazy.
person
I didn't even
that's
think
with
of
you.
that.
Oh, that's
true.
There's many companies right now are adopting this as part of your application
So if you're
process.
a trainer, hey, I want to work at XYZ gym, they're going to look at everything. Plus, they're going to say, well, what's your social media following and which makes sense.
Yeah. And I know this.
Wow.
I know this is going to.
It's already happening. Yeah.
This is going to irritate some people, but I'll tell you right, and this is the truth from a business owner perspective. If I have trainer Justin that has the social media following, right, and it's all big, and then I've got trainer Lane who's got that's a PhD, brilliant mind, but doesn't have any social presence whatsoever. I'm actually going to lean towards Justin, because when it comes to converting into dollars, I know that his reach and his community is going to pay off in my business more than even this PhD guy who may be able to answer more questions than Justin could. So just keep that in mind, that when you are thinking from
that's got to apply for sales jobs
100%,
too, right?
100%,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, there's companies already
Didn't
that
even think of that.
This is part of the application process.
My mind was just blown.
In the future, it will be mandatory. So if you're not already, there's two types of people right now that are using these platforms. If you look at which it cracks me up too when people talk about some of the shit that I post, and it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is for business for me. Like all my social media, I turned that on to assist the business. It was not. I'm not a consumer. Does that mean I don't go check out my family and see my friends? Sure, I do that every once in a while, but 99% of what I utilize it for is for business and business relationships. So if you're not already thinking that way already, you should be. This is the type of stuff.
Start growing now.
This is the type of stuff that
going away.
We will be covering in the seminars that we do in the future. So hopefully we can help out.
Next question is from Fairyland, who is asking, have you done Pilates? If so, do you think it's beneficial for someone who weight trains?
So I did Pilates for about 7 years, and
You
no,
did?
I'm just kidding.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah, before I no. So I'm very, very familiar with Pilates because I've worked with Pilates instructors as clients, but I've never taken Pilates. Now, here's something that you want to consider when you're doing a modality that is based on a particular style or technique, is that the style or technique becomes the priority. And what I mean by that is when you do Pilates, there is definitely a Pilates way of doing the movements. There are Pilates exercises. Same thing holds true for other types of movements.
Yeah. Do you have an example or?
Well, you guys have seen reformer work before, right? Yeah. Pilates, by the way, was invented to train ballerinas and ballet performers. It's designed to create lots of stability, lots of long lines,
Core stimulation,
and not long muscle bellies.
No.
That's fucking bullshit advertising. Can't do that. Can't change your muscle belly length. But long lines, because when you're in ballet, that's what you've ever watched, high level ballet performers. You can see that it's all about these. It's a very particular type of movement. It creates this illusion with the movement, and it's very, very, it's branded very much ballet. Well, Pilates was designed to train ballet performers to develop the stability and strength to do ballet. Okay. Resistance training, on the other side, is all about training your body. It's not about doing a particular style or whatever. So I can do resistance training for anything. I can do resistance training for ballet. I can do resistance training for football. I can do resistance training for rehab. So there is no form of exercise that is more moldable than resistance training at all. Nothing comes close. Nothing. There is nothing that comes close to resistance training's ability to mold and form itself around the individual. So that being said, some of the drawbacks of Pilates is if you have imbalances, for example, they say, oh, it works out your core. Well, if you're hip flexor dominant, Pilates is wrong for you. Because if you're hip flexor dominant, almost all the lower body movements are going to...
Just going to reinforce that.
They are going to really reinforce hip flexor dominance. I have had a fucking hard time training some of these clients and instructors on correcting their hip flexor dominance because they did years of Pilates and they reinforce these hip flexor dominant movements. So then when I go do other exercises, it's like so solidified that the only success I've ever had is I've had them take time off Pilates while we correct imbalances, and then they were able to go back and then have more favorable recruitment patterns. Now, that being said, if you're relatively healthy and you're aware of developing imbalances, Pilates does some fucking amazing stuff. Like, you want to talk about stability, especially limb extended ability, stability in the hips, stability in upper back posture, stability in the shoulders. Pilates is amazing. It's incredible.
It's like strength yoga.
It's well, no, it's actually very, very different. Like yoga,
no, it's,
when you're in a position for yoga, you're holding a position and staying very tense. And with Pilates, there are movements with very short ranges of motions. You are actually moving in repetition within these short. Have you ever seen bar classes? Bar is, it's not Pilates, but you can see how it's related to Pilates.
Yeah.
So if you just do resistance training and you're really strong in the gym, and then you go do Pilates, you're gonna find yourself shaking. It's gonna suck. It's very specific.
What's interesting is Dr. Andrea Spina. He actually, like, somebody had coined like the functional range conditioning as like a hybrid of yoga and Pilates, but added all this like scientific data and a study behind it. So he's just, the way that he organized it is different, but he pulled heavily from Pilates.
Yeah, I called it strength yoga because I've done it before, and that's what it reminds me of. Is like doing yoga type positions with repetitions and strength. So that's why I called it that. I think it's just like.
Did you do reformer Pilates or did you do?
I've done both.
Mat Pilates?
Yeah, I've done both. I've actually dated a Pilates instructor, so I've had my fair share of Pilates in my life. And I think it's great, but I also think it's just like what Sal said. I mean, I think of it like Pilates, yoga, running, rowing. These are all these are very specific type modalities and movements that could complement a weight training program, but they're totally different. Like Sal said, weight training program is very specific to you, right? Unless you're running some generic group class. Ideally you're lifting that's movements that are specific to your body. That's ideal. At least that's what we talk about, and that's what MAPS is all about, is trying to find that for you, right? But I also believe that if something like this, if you go and do it and it gets you moving in a way that you wouldn't move and you don't injure yourself, and you do the proper, if you got MAPS and you're priming your body and you're doing the things to work on the imbalances, then I'm all for it. In fact, if I had to compare it to rowing, running, yoga, I would probably put Pilates up there in one of the better ones of all those, less detrimental in comparison to like running or doing something intense like rowing. So that I would if you're doing the right weight training, I think it could totally complement that. And I think if you like and you love doing it, I think it's awesome. Now, personally, I would create my own, like, let's say you got MAPS 3 times a week, and then you're thinking about throwing Pilates in there 2 times a week. Well, I would throw 2 days of priming and that 2 days of fortification sessions or prime instead of Pilates. And then what you're doing is you're taking the benefits that you may find from Pilates and you're being very specific to what your body needs, and you're spending an hour a day on those off days. That's what I would do.
You know what I find interesting is Pilates has some of the best inadvertent marketing that I can think of. And what I mean by that is, if you're a woman and you want to get in shape, and you know Pilates was designed for ballet dancers, and you know what like the top ballet dancers look like, you're immediately like, I'm doing Pilates, right? Meanwhile, if you're that same woman and you want to get in shape, and you're like, I think I might want to lift weights, and you look at bodybuilders, you're probably like, fuck that, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
CrossFit became very popular among women because they did such a good job of having like examples of women who lift weights and how they look. And you had these women that looked amazing, and they're like, hey, I deadlift and squat and whatever. Incidentally, the exercise that build the most muscle, but all of a sudden women were like, I want to do it because they want to look like those people. Same reason why when yoga first came onto the scene, no men did yoga. Now you're seeing men doing yoga, but at first it was because the example or the pinnacle of yoga was like this woman who did. It's all this like really, really smart marketing. Men would benefit greatly from doing Pilates as well. I mean, if that's your thing and you want to train in those ranges of motion, like Adam was saying, you've already got a pretty good hold of how your body works and whatnot. Go take a Pilates class and see how it feels. You'll be surprised at how challenging it is. But like anything, it's the detriment isn't because it's a specific form of technique. It's a specific type of movement. So I have trained. My cousin actually is a very, very high level ballerina. She's performed in New York, and she's the lead in I forgot what show. I think it's a Nutcracker.
Oh, wow.
In Sacramento, San Jose.
Shit, huh?
Yeah, she's very, 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 very talented. Been doing it for a very long time. Has gotten scholarships through ballet. And if you look at her, of course, she's developed a ballet. The muscles that are very heavily worked in ballet. So she walks around with this ridiculously tall posture and nice shoulders and all that stuff, because those are because of holding the position and stuff. But if you take her in the gym and you have her lift weights, and you put her in other ranges of motion that are not actively trained in ballet, things start to break down. Like if you have her do a deadlift, it looks like a plie. You know what I mean? It looks like she wants to get down like a ballerina would, because her body has had to mold to the art or to the sport. And so if you just do Pilates, then your body has to learn and create recruitment patterns to make it as efficient and effective at Pilates.
It's a sport in a sense that
kind of, right?
It's not really that beneficial to the joints. Like I've had a lot of clients with knee problems that were dancers,
knee and hip problems,
just because of
all day long. And if you ever, and you never seen
repetitive movement,
if you've ever seen a ballerina's feet, you can see the absolute beating that they take because of
they're
the
up on
technique.
their tippy toes.
Oh yeah, but if you weight train properly, then it molds to your body. So I can train anybody, and there is no set like form or structure. Like I love squats, right? Barbell squats, one of the best exercises you can possibly do. I can have someone come in who can't squat, and I can still train those muscles using different movements depending on their body. If you're doing Pilates, you're kind of limited. You know what I mean? Like here's the Pilates movements, and unless you have a really good instructor who can modify the fuck out of things, you're a little bit limited. So that all being said, again, I want to echo what Adam was saying. If you're resistance training, you're doing everything right, and you want to add Pilates and you enjoy it, go for it, man. It's activity, it's fun, and you'll get a completely different type of workout. With that being said, Mind Pump is still offering 30 days of coaching, and it's still for free. All you got to do is go to mindpumpmedia.com, opt in. It's free, and you'll get a ton of incredible information, including episodes that are time-stamped where we talk about particular subjects. So you can literally click on what you want to learn, whether it's protein, fat, wellness, meditation, whatever, and studies that defend and accompany those topics. Also, leave us a review on iTunes. We pick the best ones, or at least the ones we like the most, and you'll get a free t-shirt. Lastly, if you want to ask us a question that we'll answer on episodes like this one, The place to do it is on Instagram, and it's Mind Pump Media. That's the name of our page. My page is Mind Pump Sal. Adam has a personal page. It's Mind Pump Adam, and Justin is at Mind Pump Justin.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.